The year is 2025. Donald J. Trump, defying the odds and rewriting history, has reclaimed the presidency, becoming the 47th president of the United States. The improbable has happened. Once again, the man who promised to make America great again now holds the nation's highest office. The question on everyone's mind: what does a second Trump term hold for America? This is not about relitigating the 2020 election. It's about understanding the potential ramifications of a Trump resurgence. His first term was marked by deep divisions, policy upheavals, and a constant state of controversy. Would a second term be more of the same? Or would Trump 2.0 usher in a new era of Trumpism? The stakes are high. Domestically, the nation remains polarized, grappling with social and economic anxieties. On the world stage, America's role is in flux, challenged by a rising China and a resurgent Russia. How would a second Trump presidency navigate these complex issues? Over the next few sections, we'll delve into the potential policies and impacts of a hypothetical second Trump term, examining everything from his America First agenda to his stance on immigration, the economy, the environment, and foreign policy. Join us as we explore the possibilities, both promising and perilous, of a Trump 2.0 presidency. America First was more than just a campaign slogan for Donald Trump. It was the bedrock of his political identity. It resonated with voters who felt left behind by globalization, forgotten by the political elite. In a potential second term, this nationalist ethos would likely return with a vengeance, shaping both domestic and foreign policy. Under an America First 2.0 banner, we could expect an even more assertive approach to trade, with a continued focus on bilateral deals and a willingness to impose tariffs. International agreements and organizations would be viewed with skepticism, seen as potential threats to American sovereignty. Trump's rhetoric often painted a picture of America as a victim taken advantage of by allies and adversaries alike. This narrative resonated with his base, fueling a sense of grievance and a desire to reclaim America's perceived lost greatness. It's a powerful message, one that Trump would likely tap into once again. However, critics argue that America First is a recipe for isolationism, undermining global cooperation and potentially harming the very interests it seeks to protect. They point to the trade wars and diplomatic tensions of Trump's first term as evidence of the dangers of this approach. Few issues are as closely associated with Donald Trump as immigration. His hardline stance, epitomized by the border wall and the Muslim travel ban, was a defining feature of his presidency. In a second term, we could expect even stricter immigration policies, aimed at further curtailing both legal and illegal immigration. The border wall, a potent symbol of Trump's presidency, would likely remain a priority. Expect renewed calls for its expansion, coupled with increased funding for border security measures, including surveillance technology and more border patrol agents. Legal immigration would likely face further restrictions as well. Trump has repeatedly expressed his preference for a merit-based system, favoring highly skilled immigrants over family reunification. This could mean significant changes to existing immigration laws, making it more difficult for families to reunite and potentially reducing overall immigration levels. These policies would undoubtedly be popular with Trump's base, who view immigration as a threat to American jobs, security, and cultural identity. However, critics argue that such measures are cruel, ineffective, and economically damaging. They point to the humanitarian crisis at the border and the separation of families as evidence of the human cost of Trump's immigration policies. The Art of the Deal, Part 2, Tax Cuts and Deregulation Redux. Donald Trump's approach to the economy is rooted in his belief in the power of deregulation and tax cuts to spur growth. His signature achievement in his first term was the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, which slashed corporate tax rates and provided tax relief for individuals. In a second term, we could expect a continuation of these policies, with a focus on further reducing taxes and rolling back regulations. Trump's economic team would likely push for additional tax cuts, arguing that they are essential for boosting investment, creating jobs, and increasing wages. They would also target regulations across various sectors, from finance to energy, arguing that they stifle innovation and hinder economic growth. The goal would be to create a more business-friendly environment, one that encourages investment and job creation. Trump often touted the stock market's performance during his presidency as evidence of his economic success, and he would likely seek to replicate those gains in a second term. However, critics argue that Trump's economic policies primarily benefit the wealthy and corporations, while doing little to help the middle class or address income inequality. They also point to the ballooning federal deficit as a consequence of tax cuts and increased spending. Drilling down energy independence and environmental concerns. Energy independence was a cornerstone of Donald Trump's America First agenda. He championed the expansion of fossil fuel production, rolling back environmental regulations, and withdrawing the United States from the Paris Climate Agreement. In a second term, we could expect a continuation of these policies with a focus on maximizing domestic energy production and minimizing environmental regulations. Trump's energy policy would likely center on unleashing American energy dominance, particularly in oil and natural gas. This could mean opening up more federal lands and waters to drilling, approving pipelines, and promoting clean coal technologies. Environmental regulations would likely face further rollbacks, with the Trump administration arguing that they stifle economic growth and job creation. The focus would be on streamlining permitting processes for energy projects and reducing the regulatory burden on businesses. However, environmental groups argue that Trump's energy policies come at a significant cost to the environment and public health. They point to the increased greenhouse gas emissions, air pollution, and threats to wildlife as evidence of the dangers of Trump's approach. America on the world stage, a unilateral approach to foreign policy. Donald Trump's approach to foreign policy was unconventional, to say the least. He eschewed multilateralism and diplomacy, preferring bilateral deals and a transactional approach to international relations. He questioned long-standing alliances, cozied up to dictators, and withdrew the United States from international agreements. In a second term, we could expect a continuation of this America First foreign policy with a focus on asserting American power and pursuing American interests, often unilaterally. Trump's foreign policy would likely be driven by a combination of pragmatism and a desire to project strength. He would likely continue to prioritize economic interests, using tariffs and trade deals as leverage in negotiations. Military strength would remain a key component of his foreign policy, with a focus on modernizing the armed forces and maintaining American military superiority. Alliances would likely be viewed through a transactional lens, with Trump demanding that allies contribute more to their own defense and share the burden of global leadership. International organizations such as the United Nations and the World Trade Organization would likely face continued skepticism and pressure to reform. Critics argue that Trump's foreign policy has alienated allies, emboldened adversaries, and diminished America's standing in the world. They point to the damage done to transatlantic relations, the withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal, and the chaotic summits with North Korea as evidence of the flaws in Trump's approach. A nation divided, social policies and the potential for discord. Donald Trump's presidency was marked by deep social and political divisions. His rhetoric and policies often inflamed tensions, exacerbating existing cultural and ideological fault lines. In a second term, these divisions would likely persist as Trump's policies on issues such as abortion, gun control, and LGBTQ+ rights would continue to be highly contentious. On abortion, Trump has appointed conservative judges to the Supreme Court, raising the possibility of Roe v. Wade being overturned or significantly weakened. This would be a major victory for the anti-abortion movement, but it would also likely lead to legal challenges and protests across the country. Gun control is another issue where Trump's stance is at odds with a significant portion of the American public. He has expressed support for the Second Amendment and has shown little appetite for enacting stricter gun control measures. In the wake of continued mass shootings, this issue would likely remain a source of contention and debate. Trump's record on LGBTQ+ rights is mixed. While he has appointed conservative judges who are often critical of LGBTQ+ rights, he has also expressed support for LGBTQ+ individuals serving in the military. His administration's policies on transgender rights, however, have been widely condemned by LGBTQ+ advocacy groups. These are just a few examples of the social issues that would likely dominate the political landscape in a second Trump term. His policies on these issues would be met with both fervent support and fierce opposition, reflecting the deep divisions that exist within American society.